السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. بشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So inshallah today we'll do tafsir of the last and final juz number 30. So this juz begins with Surah Naba, Surah number 78. And in this surah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like a farmer has different crops, has different things that it has, they planted it, and what that happens is when the season comes in, at the end of the season, the farmer, they come and they harvest their crop, and after the crops are harvested, then everything else is kind of destroyed and put away. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do the same thing with this earth. The harvest for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the mankind and jinn. And when Allah takes us, then the rest of this earth will be destroyed. And this surah also talks about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, created all the different things, the mountains, and He created the sleep that we have, that we every night we enjoy. And in the end, this harvest will happen, and Allah will destroy the rest of this earth. Before I continue, I just wanted to mention though, this last juz it's really heavy on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Scenes of the Day of Judgment, what's important, what's not important on the Day of Judgment. So this last final juz, there are a lot of small little tidbit surahs. They all have, their own, they're very, small messages, almost like one sentence messages, but they're meant to deliver a different aspect of Yawm al-Qiyamah. For example, in Surah Nazi'at, if you look into verse number 36 or 39, this surah talks about our souls and how our souls will be extracted. For the righteous people, for the good people, the soul will be extracted in a way which is pleasant, which is easy, which is comfortable. And for the bad people, when their souls are extracted, it will be ripped out, literally ripped out from their bodies, and it'll be a very painful experience. Those who prefer this worldly life, for them, of course, will be the fire of hell, and the righteous will have paradise, and that will be their refuge and their safe haven. Then in Surah Abasa, in this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the background of the surah rather is about a Sahabi named Abdullah bin Maktoum. Now, Abdullah bin Maktoum, he was a blind Sahabi, a blind companion. And one day the Prophet ﷺ was talking to some of the leaders of Quraysh, and he came and started asking some questions. And the Prophet ﷺ tried to kind of ignore him or try to kind of discourage him from asking any more questions so that he can focus on these people. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reprimanding the Prophet ﷺ, don't always have your attention towards the famous people, the powerful people. Those people, Iman is not always written for them. Rather, pay attention to your own. Pay attention to your own kind, to your own people. Be kind to them. Give them more time than you give other people. And this is important, especially those of us, who are family men or people of families. Sometimes we oftentimes give more attention to other people than our own families, and this is not right. And I'll speak to myself first as well. That we should be giving more time to our own families, to our own brothers and sisters, before we give time to other people. Then Surah Takwir and Infitar. Both of these surahs, they're right next to each other. Both are on the same size. And they talk about the utter and sheer destruction of this universe on the Day of Judgment. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, the sheer destruction that will happen, this explosion and the expansion of the sun, the stars will come crashing down, violent earthquakes happening, mountains being shifted and being thrown across the skies like carded wool. The oceans will be set on fire. So it brings these scenes on the Day of Judgment. The animals will be gathered together. Those daughters that were buried alive, they'll then be brought forth, and they'll be asked for what crime were they buried for. And then we'll have to give account for our deeds. So these two surahs go into the detail about that. Then we want Surah Mutaffifin. Surah Mutaffifin is a surah about unfair practices and trade. Where people like to give less and take more. So this surah reprimands, people who have their own businesses, who have their own, commerce and their own trade. That we have to be careful. Either, there'll be two categories of the people. One category of the people will be the illiyin. The illiyin will be the people who will be in a high category. They'll be in a high position and they'll be well off. And then there'll be the sijin. The sijin people will be in the low place and they'll be punished. So these are two main categories, and then essentially we have the choice of which category we want to be in. Then Surah Inshiqaq. Surah Inshiqaq talks about how some people will be given the book of deeds in the right hand, and the other people will be given the book of deeds in their left hand but behind their back. And the people who are being given the right hand, they'll be rejoicing, they'll be happy, and they'll be shouting, and they'll be telling people to read their books. And the people who will be given the book of deeds in the left hand behind their back will be very upset, and they'll be crying and they'll be wailing. Of course, we have the choice of which one we want to be. Surah Buruj, this relates the Surah Buruj relates the story of the people who believed, and this actually happened just right before the incident of the elephant. What happened was, in Yemen, there were a group of people. Yemen had at that time was mixed. There were a lot of Christian people there. So there was a Jewish Himyari ruler. His name was Dhu Nuwas. What we have to understand is, in the north of Arabia, there was a proxy government controlled by the Roman Empire. And in the south of Arabia, where Yemen was controlled by another proxy government, which was controlled by the Persian Empire. So Dhu Nuwas was a Jew who was in charge of Yemen, and a large group of people became Christian. So what he did was he started punishing them and throwing them in the fire. And there's another story that comes with this. That there was a young boy who was supposed to kind of take the mantle, and he was basically given the responsibility to go and learn magic, or to learn from the people, in order to be in some sort of leadership position. This boy ran to some pious people, righteous people, and he started learning from them instead. And in the end, what happened was, when it came time, he was eventually exposed, and the king found out what happened. So they tried to kill him. First, they tried to drown him. They tried to throw him off a high tower. And he told them that the only way you can kill me, if you say, in the name of the Lord of this child, and then you throw an arrow, then you can kill me. But so they did this in front of everybody, and they did this, and then he did finally die. But when people saw this, they realized, okay, this boy must be on the truth. They believed, and at that time Christianity was the right religion. They all became Christian. So what he did was, then he started making big pits of fire and throwing people in there. There are some narrations where there was a woman who had a child. Well, this is one of the only children who actually spoke from the cradle. The woman, she wasn't sure what to do. She was about to throw in the fire, and the child told the mother that, don't worry, Allah will protect us, and then but don't renounce your religion. That one was thrown into the fire. Eventually, what happened was, Abraha, the Aksumi tribe or kingdom in Abyssinia, they found out what happened to their Christian brethren. So the Najashi sent Abraha and another general, to go and fight and to conquer Yemen. They fought against Dhu Nuwas. They defeated him. Dhu Nuwas eventually ran into the middle of the ocean, and he drowned to death. And then eventually, we know what happened with Abraha. Abraha eventually kind of took over, and he ruled Yemen. Then comes Surah Tariq. Surah Tariq talks about protection. Allah has appointed angels to protect us from certain things, and as long as we remain loyal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and steadfast, the angels will continue to protect us from everything except from death. Then Surah A'la. Surah A'la talks about the beauty of the Quran, and how if we want to become beautiful, we want to beautify ourselves, we must do this by adopting the Quran. By adopting the Quran, then we can beautify ourselves as well. Surah Ghashiyah talks about some that some people will come on the Day of Judgment, and they will come with delightful faces, pleasant faces, and there will be other people who come on the Day of Judgment with broken faces. And he wants us to reflect upon things like our transport, the mountains, and these are things to help make our iman strong. Then Surah Fajr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about regret. There'll be a lot of things that we regret. We will wish we can turn back time, but we will not be able to turn back time, even though we will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we will plead, but we will not be able to go back. Then when the surah ends with a very, very beautiful verses, I mean, you really have to read it for yourself, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to us in a very loving manner. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية. Oh, blessed soul, come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Come back to Allah in a way where you are pleased with Allah and Allah is pleased with you. Very beautiful. You have to read them for yourself to get to get the sheer power and the beauty of these verses. Then Surah Balad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about feeding the poor and the needy. And in return, if we feed them and remove their difficulties and their worries, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove our worries and our troubles in the hereafter. In Surah Shams, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how we can train our soul to do good and to do bad. The beginning of the surah, Allah takes oaths about the day and the night and all these different aspects of different things that we see all the time. But in the end, we have to train our soul to either do good, bad, and then we make that choice. Then in Surah Al-Layl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how the generous people and the righteous people, things will be made easy for them and good for them. Whereas the bad people and the more miserly, things will be made difficult for them and it'll be hard for them. Then in Surah Duha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he was an orphan and he was poor and Allah found him and Allah took care of them. And if the same can be done with us. If we take care of our iman, we stay loyal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah would take care of us and He will rise us to ranks where we cannot even fathom. Then Surah Inshirah, Surah Alam Nashrah. This surah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it talks about how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will always go up. His reputation will always go up, and it will never go down. And as long as we stay connected to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with every difficulty there will be ease. There will always be good after every hardship. Then in Surah Teen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how He created us in the best form. Allah created us in the best form, and we should maintain this best form by preserving the message of Islam and the message of Deen. Then in Surah Alaq, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how we've been given many bounties and blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should not be ungrateful for these bounties and these blessings, especially when we have whatever we need. Then in Surah Qadr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the Laylatul Qadr, how it is a night that is better than 1,000 months, and the angels would descend, they meet and they greet everybody, and whatever dua you're making, they take these dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and your duas are then granted. Then in Surah Bayyinah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the good people and how the good people had fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world. So those people who feared Allah in this world, in the next life, they will not need to fear anything. Whereas those people who did not fear Allah in this world, they'll be suffering and be very fearful for a long time in Yawm al-Qiyamah. Then we move on to Surah Al-Zilzal. Surah Al-Zilzal, no matter how big or small or even iota of iman, or sorry, a good deed or bad deed you did, if you do something even the size of a mustard seed, whatever you do, it'll be brought forward on the Day of Judgment and you'll be judged by it. Then in Surah Adiyat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how, look at the horses, how they obey you. Even in the middle of battle and in danger, they're still obeying you. Why don't you do the same thing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Then Surah Al-Qari'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, whose good deeds are heavy will be lucky, and those people whose bad deeds are heavy and their good deeds are light will suffer on the Day of Judgment. Surah Al-Kafir talks about how we will be asked about the gifts that Allah has given us in this world, and we'll have to account for them on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Surah Al-Asr talks about how all souls are lost. Everyone is lost except for those people who do good deeds, and they encourage others to do good deeds, and they also have patience. Then Surah Humazah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how amassing a lot of wealth is not going to help us against the crusher. What is the crusher? It is the hellfire. Only good deeds will avail us and help us at that time. Then Surah Fil, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how Allah ruined Abraha and his plots and his plans when he wanted to destroy the Kaaba. And Allah is in full control. And the same thing with us in this world. Whatever happens, whatever people do, remember Allah is in full control. We need to ask Allah's help and no one else's help. Then Surah Quraysh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how He gave the Quraysh safe passage and it's in a very pleasant trade route from Yemen all the way to Syria. And they should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather than rebel against Him. And same thing with us. Allah gave us so much ease and pleasure and comfort in this world. We should be thankful and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Ma'un talks about righteous people and how good people especially should be kind and generous with the small things they have especially. And not be ungrateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And be miserly. Then from that we go on to Surah Kawthar. Surah Kawthar talks about how the Prophet ﷺ will be given a big pool on the Day of Judgment, and he will be giving people water from that pool, and basically the legacy of the Prophet ﷺ will always be protected and will always continue. And as long as we stay connected to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the same will be with us. Surah Nasr talks about a great victory and how we should be thankful to Allah and turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when Allah gives us victory, when He gives us, helps us fulfill our ambitions and reach our goals, that we should be turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Abu Lahab talks about the curse upon Abu Lahab, of Allah's curse upon him and his wife for hurting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they'll be carrying ropes of fire and wood of fire on the Day of Judgment because of what they did to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Surah Ikhlas teaches us about Allah. Allah is only one. He is independent. He was neither born nor will He have His own children, and Allah has absolutely no equal. This is who Allah is. Surah Nas and Surah Falaq, we are asked to seek protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the unseen and hidden enemies, like the jealous people, the darkness, the witches and the sorcerers who blow into knots and they perform black magic and do all types of evil things, and the shayateen of the ins and the jinn. So Allah is telling us, seek protection from these people with these surahs, and with this, of course, the juz ends. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our tafsir of the Quran, accept our reading and the recitation of the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to be walking, talking Qur'ans, enable us to live by the Quran and to practice the Quran into our life. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I will do one final dua, inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم إنا نسألك من فضلك، اللهم عصمنا من الشيطان الرجيم، اللهم اكفنا بحلالك عن حرامك وأغننا بفضلك عمن سواك يا واسع المغفرة. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الهم والحزن والعجز والكسل والبخل والجبن وضلع الدين وغلبة الرجال. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الكفر والدين. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الكفر والدين. اللهم اجعلنا من ورثة جنة النعيم. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الفقر والفاقة والذلة، ونعوذ بك من أن نظلم أو نظلم. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وغلبة العدو وشماتة الأعداء. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية في ديننا ودنيانا وأهلنا ومالنا. اللهم استر عوراتنا وآمن روعاتنا. اللهم احفظنا من بين يدينا ومن خلفنا وعن يميننا وعن شمالنا ومن فوقنا، ونعوذ بعظمتك أن نغتال من تحتنا. اللهم إنا نسألك إيمانا لا يرتد ونعيما لا ينفد ومرافقة نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم في أعلى درجة الجنة. اللهم متعنا بسمعنا وبصرنا واجعلهما الوارث منا وانصرنا على من يظلمنا. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع وعمل لا يرفع وقلب لا يخشع وقول لا يسمع. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا هما إلا فرجته، ولا دينا إلا قضيته، ولا مريضا إلا شفيته، ولا حاجة إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا رب العالمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. اللهم باعد بيننا وبين خطايانا كما باعدت بين المشرق والمغرب. اللهم نقنا من خطايانا كما نقيت الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم اغسلنا بالماء والثلج والبرد. ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Please continue to pray, make dua for my family, myself, our community, our masjid. Make dua for all of humanity, all of mankind. May Allah give everybody shifa kamil ajila who are sick, and may Allah remove this sickness, this disease, this virus from this earth. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.